Résistance. That's what I'm feeling right now. That's what I'm feeling right now. Trying to show up to make this video, but honestly, just creating content overall. Okay, it was some years ago. I was living in Paris and doing a master's, feeling incredibly stuck. And this whole existential angst of what do I do next? And that's when I had this realization that the resistance, it isn't me. It's this natural and inherent force of nature that everybody has to deal with. And it's not so much the resistance in and of itself as it is how we respond to it. So I remember sitting in my tiny studio apartment right behind Les Invalides, where Napoleon is buried, and listening to Steven Pressfield's work on the War of Art. In this book, the whole concept of resistance can be summed up as this internal force that actively works against us whenever we attempt to do something meaningful, whether it's starting a business, exercising, or for me, this video. Pretty sure I experience all of these on an almost daily basis, except the last one. I'm not a very combative or dramatic person. Since then, I've discovered that psychologically and spiritually, resistance can actually go much deeper than that. It can keep you from showing up to your day-to-day life, which can look like emotional and physical symptoms such as chronic fatigue, autoimmune, and other disease and illness. Now, this type of work around resistance can start to get really psychologically intense. It deals with inner conflicts of identity, trauma, and truth, or rather dismantling the made-up lies that we tell ourselves that are false. I'm too old to live purpose, too sick, whatever. I won't go more in depth as this can really be a life's chef d'oeuvre of self-evolution. In the meantime, I will leave you with 2 approaches to find freedom and move through your resistance patterns that block your life force, and how to call that vital healing force back into your body. Front door approach. Radically love yourself right now. Surrender. Go for it. Forgive. Some people can do this after a transcendental experience, like a deep moment of meditation, profound bliss, a near-death experience, and it's like all of a sudden you experience a self-healing. Backdoor approach. By doing things you love each and every day through the messiness and imperfection of life, that's a backdoor approach. It's a backdoor approach because you start to show yourself self-respect and satisfaction each and every day by showing up for what you love. There's this shift that starts to happen as you forge these new pathways in your brain by showing up for what you want and creating the life that you want to live. So someone's work who I really admire for every creative is Rick Rubin's The Creative Act, a way of being, like the Bible for the creative process. He doesn't explicitly use the word resistance, But his work is super important for creatives and artists alike because he acknowledges the invisible forces that block creativity and offers ways to navigate them. Let's take a look at his chapter on self-doubt, for instance. This is super powerful as it can be applied to any creative process where self-doubt creeps in, not just for like art artists. Self-doubt lives in all of us, and while we may wish it gone, it is there to serve us. Flaws are human, and the attraction of art is in the humanity held in it. If we were machine-like, the art wouldn't resonate. It would be soulless. With life comes pain, insecurity, and fear. We're all different and we're all imperfect, and the imperfections are what makes each of us and our work interesting. We create pieces reflective of who we are, and if insecurity is part of who we are, then our work will have a greater degree of truth in it as a result. I love this. He flips the whole paradigm of self-doubt on its head, and what hinders you is actually what serves you. It makes me think of the expression, the obstacle is the way, or like where you resist, persist. Cliche. But what actually makes you imperfect is where your gift lies. Back to the story where this all started. What happened when I was in Paris feeling stuck and hopeless? I went wolfing. So, wolfing. Wolfing is this whole underground network where you go and work on organic farms for free room and board. Well, in exchange for free room and board. And it's actually a really cool way to slow travel extremely cheaply. You learn about sustainable projects, organic practices, and you get to eat some really amazing organic food. Yeah, so here's the article I wrote for Wolf Rants. My first experience wolfing. I guess you would call it an urban space, an urban sustainable space where they basically grow their own food and they're self-sustainable in a small city in France called Evian or Evian. And yes, it is where the bottled water comes from. So those are my hosts, Alex and Via. Just to share a little snippet, it wasn't until one day, hard at work, hacking down an old wall, that a parallel metaphorical wall within me also came down. And it felt good. Back in Paris, I was feeling stuck in the same cycles of métro, boulot, dodo, as they say in French. Something finally pushed me to take off and do something out of the norm, to live with strangers and adjust to the beat of their lifestyle, to take up a pickaxe and feel my body move in ways that a desk chair doesn't allow for, to be working in the raw elements, feeling the warm sun on my skin and the fresh open air expand my lungs. Something inside me shifted. The constraints of the boxy Parisian life had come down and I felt infinite, vital again, and like there was a renewed sense of meaning in my life. That was a whole other lifetime ago. And super epic. I would say my takeaway from all that is that now, as I re-embark on making content, I'm facing resistance all over again. In fact, it doesn't ever go away. But by the process of showing up over and over, you get intimately acquainted with it, befriend it even. Because at its core, what resistance is really about is fear. I really like the way Elizabeth Gilbert puts it in her book, Big Magic. Let me find it, because I love this quote. There's plenty of room in this vehicle for all of us, so make yourself at home. But understand this, creativity and I are the only ones who will be making any decisions along the way. I recognize and respect that you are part of this family, and so I will never exclude you from our activities. But still, your suggestions will never be followed. You're allowed to have a seat and you're allowed to have a voice, but you are not allowed to have a vote.